right, everyone. So we have another great panel up, cyber threats in the era of AI. New and fast emerging threats are here, and artificial intelligence, when it fuses with technology, is what's growing them. What are the latest threats to look out for, and how can we combat them? Leading this one is founder and CEO of WSource, Danielle Titchener, who will be talking with the CEO of SecBI, Gilead Plug, and Chief Security Officer of Sumo Logic, George Gershow, and co-founder and CEO of SingularityNet, Ben Goertzel.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today. So two hype words in one panel, AI and cyber. So let us define what this panel is actually going to address. We are going to look into influence of AI on cyber threats. As you know, AI has been developing rapidly recently, and AI's development is influencing basically the way cyber attacks are being played lately in different areas of cyber that we are going to discuss right now. So I would like to start with Ben. Ben, you're a reference to AI right now with Hanson Robotics and what you do in SingularityNet. So could you share with us what are the recent threats that you see in R&D and overall AI development?
Yeah, I think advanced technology is creating all sorts of new ways for people to wreak mayhem. And in Hanson Robotics, with the Sophia and other robots, we've pretty much dodged those bullets. No one has hacked into Sophia and taken her over and made her say nefarious things yet. But
that's good news.
Yeah, so far, fingers crossed, right? And there have been other cases with like people hacking into toy teddy bears and so forth and stealing people's data, and we've avoided that through good security hygiene. But from a SingularityNet perspective, because we've been so vocal about developing advanced AI technology, we've been contacted by a whole bunch of people needing or thinking they need machine learning for security in various ways. I mean, one example, without giving the name, but a major power company contacted us because someone had hacked into their power generation and distribution network, and basically they wanted to use AI to sort of model what's normal behavior in all their power network and power machinery. So if something unusual happened again, they would identify that it was a deviation from normalcy. And that's a very interesting project, and it's huge amount of data, and it's unusual data. It's not just standard computer network data. And for SingularityNet, which is by default a public cloud-based, like blockchain-based AI network, it's different because we have to do a lot of stuff on-premise in this case. The data can't leave the premise. Now, the funny thing about this case, of course, is the nature of that hack was really like a watering hole type thing where some people working for that power company were on some third-party website and then kind of gave away some credentials to something.
Oh, dear.
So it wasn't really like a super sophisticated hacking method that got in, but still, no matter how the hack happened, you can still detect, using machine learning, deviance from normal behavior in that network, which can tell you something happened. And this is a hard AI problem, right? Because if you have a network and you want to model like what's normal, so you can tell what's different than normal, that's really hard because nothing's normal in the world, right? There's always many strange things happening, but yet that's sometimes the approach you have to take, because otherwise what you're doing is going through a list of bad things that could happen that have happened before, but by its nature that rules out new attack vectors that have just been invented, which you'll find only by saying, well, I know what is normal, so I know when something's strange.
Right, so would you say that the statement that well-coded algorithm can actually find a way to outsmart and expect the reaction of their system?
I mean, honestly, in the work our team has done with security, almost every problem will be avoided by like updating things and following basic security protocol. But the cause of the problem is one thing, and then identifying a problem once it's there is a different thing, right? And I think machine learning can play a significant role in identifying something funny is happening. The challenge is they're eliminating false positives, because it's very easy to detect something that's abnormal, but then many abnormal things are not hacks or security violations. They're just some new pattern of behavior, some new interaction with an external network or something. So it's certainly a challenging machine learning problem. And part of the challenge is about data, right? Because each organization has its own data, and you don't want to share data pertinent to the security of your network. But actually, if you did like miraculously have data from everybody's network and everyone's computer in one place, I mean, then machine learning could do an amazing job of identifying problems, but that's not the situation you have, right? So you have a situation of sort of inadequate training data for your AI, and the AI just has to be able to deal with whatever data you're given from the network in that particular company. And that brings you toward what I'd call AGI, artificial general intelligence, not necessarily like full-on human level AGI, but in the sense of AI that can generalize beyond the specific situations it's seen in the past to deal with something that's fundamentally new. So that's one of the interesting things about security as an application area, is part of it's about identifying recurrences of familiar threats, but an interesting part of it is about generalization to the unknown, and to dealing with something that hasn't been seen before, either within the network you're studying or that hasn't been seen before ever anywhere. And can the AI still deal with it, or do you need to revert to a human to understand a novel threat or a novel problem that's occurred? Like in the case of this power company, you know, they hadn't been hacked into before at all, so there was nothing in the historical data of their power facilities that would tell you in a really direct way what's going on. So you need an AI that can generalize a bit beyond the data that it's been looking at.
So the devil is in deviation, according to Ben, and that takes us to the next aspect of cyber applications. So what can you tell us, George? What recent hacks, what are the threats that you have seen recently in your field of cyber?
Well, a lot of them start with the emergence of IoT, and I don't think Ben could have set me up any better, because what he's talking about is definitely true, which is the utopia of transparency. I think as workloads are moving to the cloud now, you do have the capability to take metadata from multiple customers, multiple prospects, not the actual raw data, but the metadata, to be able to combine and contrast it. So, you know, if you think about like our platform, for example, 3,000 customers, isn't it nice that you can now say, out of these 3,000 customers, I'm getting an alert today that nobody else is getting. There's a threat that's happening to me now that's not happening across all of those customers. And that's something that's really interesting to be able to look into. And like you said, you know, like a lot of times we're trying to reduce those false positives, which we'll get to here in a second, and cut through the noise to get to the signal. But we're seeing a lot of threats basically around IoT-type data that people aren't paying attention to on their network, but they're now having this era of transparency, and in the cloud, being able to look at that multi-tenant metadata to really be able to contrast, compare, and see how you're doing against your peers, which is really different, because I've been in this industry over 20 years, and in the past, whenever there was a vulnerability, it was like, I'm not telling anyone anything, you know, like, you know, you had to go through legal and do all these other things, you know, didn't share. And this is where I think a lot of the bad actors have had a tremendous advantage over the good guys, is they share.
The dark web.
Everything is public, and to where we should all build this community of transparency. I guarantee you, if something happens to me, the first person I pick up the phone and call is JV from Pokemon and his SOC, and say, look, this is what's going on with us, or we do it through a Slack channel. So we're starting to see this combination of SOCs and sharing of information, especially with the emergence of AI and then cloud-based workloads.
Right, so transparency is what we need.
100%.
tackle it, yeah. The light web.
It is. Well, it's true. I mean, the transparency piece is big. And here's another one, too, that's kind of scary is with the emergence of new privacy laws like CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, IoT data is actually part of that act. And it's self-funded, self-regulated, which means they're going to go after your money. And I know what a lot of people in the room are thinking as well, too. They're like, California, far away. Every tech company you pretty much do business with in the software enterprise world, 80% of them or so are out of California. So it's going to affect everyone out there.
That's good. I mean, I see it as a positive change.
I see it as a positive change as well, too.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we're coming to the difficult part. Gilad.
I'm difficult.
You can handle it. So basically, endpoint, enterprise. What do we see? What kind of threats are coming up in this area?
So what we heard here is really something new in cybersecurity, which is not really that new. Hackers or bad actors have been around for a very long time. And I have some bad news. They have a really good business model, and they're going to keep going at it. We just read the other day that there was a group, a gang, let's call them, that they voluntarily closed their operation after stealing $2 billion. 18 months, that's all. They had a full affiliate program. This was a real business. They're not going to stop. And what they're going to look for are vulnerabilities. Every new technology, every new application, every new good thing that is happening to us over here in the floor, there's going to be somebody that's going to try to exploit it, inject some malware, steal your data. He's happy. You're sad. That's more or less the story
Dynamics.
the dynamics of cybersecurity. And I'm not getting to nation states. That's something different. What's common about all of these is that they don't want to be discovered, right? I mean, as soon as you discover them, that's it, game over. Well, not really game over, because they can try again and again and again. But let's say it is game over. How do they become stealthy? Two ways. Either by behaving in a very, very unique way. And that's good if you want to do like one-time grab. That's not interesting. You can't go 18 months or 7 years like we heard in the recent telecom hack. Soft cell, it's called. If you want to stay persistent for a long time, you have to be stealthy. You have to blend. You have to have your signal under the noise. I hope that makes sense for everybody. How do you get your signal under the noise? You need to blend with normal. How do you blend with normal? Well, use Twitter as a channel for malicious communication. Twitter isn't bad in any way. It's just a communication channel. If you use Twitter for malicious communication, it's very hard to detect. Or jump from IP to IP or from URL to URL. These are all techniques that are common and are very easy to use today on the side of the hackers. Very difficult for us, the defenders, to identify. The way we do it, and I think, Ben, you mentioned anomaly detection is one way. Definitely anomaly detection is a way. But you also said correctly that networks are full of anomalies. So if you just work based on anomalies, you're going to flood the SOC teams, the security operations centers, with false positives, false alerts. What we do, or another way to do it, is to reconstruct activities. If you reconstruct activity, think of that 7-year-long attack, or even shorter attacks. If you reconstruct activity, you all of a sudden see a pattern, or you see a consistent communication. Even if these hackers are trying to hide in different ways, you will, by reconstructing an activity, you increase the signal versus the noise. And like we all know, in any communication system, if you increase the signal high enough versus the noise, you can detect. Make sense?
Yes, you are giving us already part of the second answer, second round. So my next question was to you, actually. We'll start with you because you just opened the solutions. So you gave us one so far. Can you share more solutions on how we can actually how the remedies we can use to address the attacks we have just discussed.
Exactly, and so I think I was talking about communication
Right, the noise,
in general, the noise and the signal. Let's talk a little bit about the vulnerabilities, right? You mentioned IoT, you mentioned robots, teddy bears. I like that. All those, I mean, if you have a laptop, either Windows or Mac, whatever, you're going to get those periodical updates. And I'm not saying you're secure, but that's good. And by the way, number one, good patch management. That's it's basics, it's table stakes. You have to make sure you're doing that. But the problem comes with IoT, printers, remote control, air conditions, your voice conferencing, whatever, and those teddy bears. They're not being patched. They're full of vulnerabilities. We know that in hospitals you have health systems that their operating system is still Windows XP or something like that, full of vulnerabilities. And that's not going to go away. So what you need to do is look at the network, not only at the endpoint. Again, endpoint is important. I'm not saying it's not. But you need to look at the network, because the network kind of gives you an echo, or at least a very good way to visualize everything that is happening on the endpoint. So a bad endpoint or an infected endpoint will behave in a certain way. And even if I don't know what is that behavior, I'll be able over time to detect that. And that's where solutions are coming in. We're using, not we, other vendors as well, using machine learning to, these are billions of logs. I mean, the amount of data is huge. It's impossible.
Back to AI. You're taking us back to AI.
Yeah, it's billions and billions of
more AI.
Data points. And why do we need AI? Because if we had the perfect analyst, a human being with an infinite amount of time, he would be able to detect these things. Looking at the monitor, going through those logs, but because it's billions, because it's so difficult, you need the machine learning, and we're using unsupervised machine learning to sift through that instead of the human being, and to even take immediate decisions and do automated response, or give the full context to the analyst in order to provide that last piece of response.
Right, thank you. George, back to you. What are the remedies in your application field in cloud in general? What can you share?
I think you start with the code, you know, so you had kind of mentioned it when you were talking to Ben. For example, every time that you talk to Alexa, a container is created. Every single time. Every command that goes into Alexa that creates a container that then is executed and then goes away as a stateless call of code. Well, we're getting more and more stateless type images out there when it comes to things like Kubernetes, Docker, and then serverless environments like Lambda. And I believe that developers are looking at this as low risk, because a stateless system may only be on the wire for, I don't know, 4 hours a day, 2 days. But guess what? As a bad actor, I know that that's a high-risk area that I can now attack, a vulnerability that's possible. So if you look at the way a container is being built today, they do registry calls from Docker Hub, GitHub, Artifactory. Those repositories are loaded, 85% average loaded with vulnerabilities and malware pre-built. And so if you don't bake security in from day one to that development process with these new methodologies, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, you know? So I think it's very important to get out ahead of that from the very beginning. The other piece that's interesting too is when it comes to anomaly detection, which I completely agree with what both guys were saying, we do need the machines to do more, because right now we write rules. So think about a SIM. A SIM is pretty much the knowledge that the 3 of us or the 4 of us have, and we're writing rules to say, if then happens, tell me this, good, bad. Well, there's a lot of stuff out there that we just don't know. If I don't know what question to ask, how in the hell am I going to get the right answer? And so the machines are now the new user, the new system. And that's where we really need to gain most of our knowledge as to if it's these 4 or 5 things that are happening that we've never seen before combined, now that's a real threat that's taken place within the environment. And then start building libraries off of those to where we can make it easier to get through that investigation workflow for the analysts, for the SOC out there as well.
Right. Are you actually using dark web in all this process?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a source of intelligence?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. It's like the major source out there to be able to find a lot of this.
Right. Useful after all. Then back to you.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You said that Sophia has never been hacked.
Well,
You're all safe. What are the measures you're taking? Like, don't give us the secret, but like, you know,
I mean,
high level.
To be honest, there is no great secret to not being hacked. We have a well-designed system, and we upgrade
What
all
George just said
our
from the beginning,
patches,
yeah.
and we have staff who are well trained in following correct security. And I think what's interesting to me in terms of our Singularity Network and the customers that we're working with, I mean, anomaly detection is important, and I think we have some clever AI to reduce the amount of false positives, but I think ultimately you need to do security by design, otherwise it becomes infeasible. And we're working with a bunch of projects on different aspects of that. So we're working with TODA network, which has just a secure communication protocol. So you're using, it's like baking blockchain into the TCP/IP or something. It's a protocol that uses identity management and encryption just at the messaging layer, even below the layer of a decentralized ledger or something. Now, for smart contracts, you know, the fact that Ethereum lets you code such complicated things in smart contracts is a plus and a minus. We're working with a project named Kirik out of Novosibirsk, and there you make a simpler domain-specific language for smart contracts, which lets you do everything that you need to do. You can then compile that into formal logic and do proof checking to show that the smart contract actually does what it says it will do. Then you can compile that into procedural form. And another example, we're working with a large networking provider on actual network packets which contain a history of everywhere they've gone. So if the packet itself accumulates a history of where it's gone, you can do analysis on the router or switch, like where have all the packets gone? Does anything strange happen? Is something misconfigured? Was something hacked, right? And we're looking at developing a distributed processing system that lets you do SingularityNet AI processing on mobile phones or all sorts of embedded devices. It's called NewNet. But for that, we're looking at all these different, privacy and security by design practices to bake in the first place. And that's going to be very critical because, I mean, basically, you can do anomaly detection, use AI to try to build, unsupervised models of what's normal and identify weird things, and that will probably always be there. But the more kinds of devices you have on their network and the more rapidly things are changing, the smarter and smarter your AI has to be. And if you can embed security in the software design, I mean, then you're decreasing the amount of the problem and also decreasing the need for the human beings involved to follow good security practices, right, which is usually the weakest point. So there's a role for AI in doing anomaly detection and other types of network analytics. There's also a role for AI within various system designs that just provide security at the base layer. An example being like AI for proof checking that your smart contract does what it says, or AI for analyzing where network packets went after you've instrumented them to keep their history. So there's, that really unfolds into a lot of different sub-applications, but I mean, they all have in common that you're wanting to collect huge amounts of data, and you're using AI to analyze these sort of on-premise in ways that have to adapt for extremely rapidly changing environment with all sorts of data and new network configurations coming in.
Absolutely. I would have loved to debate the smart contract. We are running out of time. So one last thing, a blitz question to all of you. If you could choose one word of advice to the audience on how they can protect one thing, on how they can protect themselves. Please start with you, Gilad.
Can I be blunt?
One advice.
Can I be blunt?
Yes.
Email SecBI.
Oh my God. Okay, sales.
Sorry.
Israelis. That's what happens.
But really,
Compatriots. That's
batch
fine.
management.
Okay, batch management. We go. George, one thing.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question that came up there really quick. Bug bounties, I think they're great. I think, yeah, they're a little bit risky, but that's a great way to start looking at the environment and have people break shit, because that's ultimately what you want. You want people to break stuff within your own company before the bad guys do.
All right, break it before you make it. One word of advice, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it's patch management and it's employees not following basic common sense security practices, which currently lead to most of the problems that AI is brought in to
Ben's
solve.
advice is discipline. Discipline on them, please. All right,
Very
one
boring,
thing
right?
about this panel, one thing I think we can conclude, dealing with the machines, we need to be one step ahead. That's our general advice to you in dealing with AI. Thank you very much for having us. We're running out of time. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go.